Hi, I'm Murray Charteris. Welcome back to Art Lessons Online. Now, before you get started on your artistic journey, you're going to have to know a little bit about what materials you should be using. Walking into an art supplies store can be a little daunting at first, especially if you don't know what you're after. This lesson is going to be all about what materials you're going to need to get yourself started. The truth is, you can use almost anything to draw. After all, cavemen used burned sticks of charcoal and cave walls to draw on. But if you rush out and buy the cheapest materials you can get your hands on, you will be disappointed with the results you get. There's a huge difference between the cheap materials you can get anywhere and the artist grade materials. Even though you're only learning, I would recommend getting decent materials to work with. Otherwise, you will always be struggling to draw good marks. Cheap materials will always give you disappointing results. So, what materials should you get? Well, let's get started with pencils. Artist grade pencils are graphite pencils that are graded into different categories depending on their hardness. The grade is indicated here at the end of the pencil, either by a H or a B, or both. If there is a H in the category, then it is a hard graphite. The harder the graphite, the less it comes off onto the paper. Therefore, it will make a really light line. The hardest pencil is a 9H, which makes a line that is barely visible. If the grade has a B in it, it is a soft graphite, which comes off onto the paper a lot easier and therefore makes a much darker, denser line. The darkest pencil is the softest. It is a 9B. Then there are grades all the way in between. A HB pencil, most of us are familiar with from school. It is halfway between them and makes a medium density line. The brand of pencil is rather important. Like I said earlier, if you buy cheap brands, the results won't be good. In the case of pencils, the cheap brands have very little difference between the grades. In some cases, the hard pencils end up being just as dark as the soft ones. They also tend to break very easily compared to the artist grade pencils. Now, I use the Faber Castell 9000 series pencils. They're a good consistent pencil with obvious levels between each grade. To get you started, I would recommend that you get a 2H, a HB, 2B, 4B, 6B and an 8B. The 8B will be used for very special effects. Now, a lot of people ask, what's the difference between a lead pencil and graphite? Well, they're the same thing. Pencils have always been graphite, but it kind of looks like lead, and many people thought that it indeed was lead. So the name stuck, and even today, some people refer to them as lead pencils. Now, you can get graphite pencils without any wood in it. They're called woodless graphite, and they're graphite all the way out to the edge here. And then they've got a plastic coating around the outside. The advantage of these ones is that if you put them on their side, you can use the entire width here to generate your shading. Okay, let's talk about drawing paper. Firstly, let's look at office paper. Office paper isn't regarded as good drawing surface. Firstly, it's too smooth with no texture on it. This means that the pencil has to work harder to get onto the page, and you end up with inconsistent line work. Secondly, it's very thin and gets damaged very easily. After rubbing out a few times, you end up with creased and damaged paper. There's nothing worse than achieving a good-looking drawing, but it is spoiled by creases in the page. We will need some office paper though. We'll use it for other things. This is a visual art diary or sketchbook made of cartridge paper. You're going to need one of these for your practice exercises. Cartridge paper is a lot softer and thicker than office paper. It also has a very fine tooth or grain to it, which allows the pencil to grip onto the paper much better. It is made of wood pulp, which deteriorates over time and turns slightly yellowish in colour, but it is great for learning, sketching and practicing. As you get to the advanced classes, we'll start to look at much better papers to use, such as rag papers. When you're looking for a sketchbook, have a feel of the paper and you will start to see the difference in quality between them. Don't go for the cheapest one, it is usually inferior in quality. get one that is A3 size. It's a good size to work with. It gives you plenty of space to work in. Anything smaller than that will be too restrictive. You'll also need a good quality plastic eraser. And no, it's not cheating to use an eraser. I'll show you that it's a perfectly normal tool in drawing. You might also want to get yourself a kneadable eraser, one of these. If you haven't seen one of these before, you can squish it into any shape and pick off the graphite delicately off the surface. Okay. Get yourself a good quality sharpener. It's really important to keep your pencil sharp all of the time, so you'll be using this one a lot. Look for a good quality metal sharpener. These are also an invaluable tool in drawing. These are called paper stumps, and use these ones to smudge your line work to create soft effects. Okay, they come in different sizes, so I'd go and get yourself a couple of different size ones, the smaller ones for the finer detail. Okay, now that's enough to get you started. Later on we'll look at some other materials such as charcoal, pastel, water-soluble graphite, ink and paint.